Welcome, everyone, to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're going to tackle something that affects literally millions of people, but honestly, it almost never gets talked about clearly. We're going to learn exactly how to manage your financial health by avoiding those costly, hidden banking fees. Specifically, we're zeroing in on how to turn off overdraft coverage on your checking account. By the time we wrap up this explainer, you're going to have the exact tools and knowledge you need to protect your bank balance and, more importantly, keep more of your own hard-earned money. Right off the bat, I want to hit you with a totally staggering number, $5.8 billion. According to recent data from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, this is the exact amount that consumers paid in overdraft and non-sufficient fund fees in the year 2023 alone. Just take a second to let that sink in. That is billions of dollars pulled directly from consumer checking accounts, and it's usually in the form of a $30 to $37 penalty for simply running out of money. It's a massive, massive drain on everyday finances. But here's the good news. You do not have to be a part of that statistic. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly who is paying that $5.8 billion. According to that same CFPB research, there is a shocking disparity here. A tiny fraction of customers, we're talking just 9%, bear the vast majority of this massive fee burden. They are paying a whopping 79% of all overdraft fees. These are frequently the most financially vulnerable consumers, often earning less than $50,000 a year, and they're just being repeatedly penalized. Meanwhile, the other 91% of consumers only pay 21% of the fees. So, this isn't just a random occurrence. It's a systemic issue affecting those who can least afford it. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The overdraft fee trap. 2. Coverage versus protection. 3. Why you should opt out. 4. A step-by-step opt-out guide. 5. Better alternatives and strategies. And finally, 6. Taking financial control. Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the overdraft fee trap on a macroeconomic scale. So, looking at the aggregate overdraft and non-sufficient fund revenue collected by banks, back in 2019, right before the pandemic, this figure sat at an eye-watering $12 billion. Now, thanks to some much-needed regulatory pressure and shifting bank policies, it has dropped by more than half, down to $5.8 billion in 2023. But here is the real catch. While the total revenue has dropped, many major financial institutions are still charging incredibly high fees, often right around $35 per individual transaction. What's even more troubling is that the actual cost to a typical bank to cover an unfunded transaction is usually far, far lower than the $35 penalty they're slamming you with. Moving on to Section 2, coverage versus protection. Let's decode some of this deliberate bank jargon. It is absolutely crucial to understand how these two mechanisms fundamentally differ because they sound so similar. Standard overdraft coverage is the service where if you overdraw your account, the bank graciously pays the deficit for you, but they hit you with that $35 fee. This is the penalty model, and as we've seen, it's highly profitable for them. Overdraft protection, on the other hand, is a completely different animal. With protection, you link your primary checking account to your own backup assets, like a savings account, a credit card, or a line of credit. When you run short, the bank simply transfers your own funds to cover the gap. While there might occasionally be a small transfer fee or a bit of interest, it utilizes your own assets rather than hitting you with a flat, high-margin penalty. Which brings us to Section 3, why you should opt out, and the real-world financial impact. We're back to another number, and this one gets deeply personal for a lot of folks. $380. According to the CFPB, this is the median yearly cost incurred by heavy overdrafters. Just imagine losing $380 of your hard-earned money every single year just for the privilege of accessing your own bank account when balances are low. And because retail transactions are often settled via these complex nightly batch processing algorithms, your credits and debits can be ordered in ways that actually trigger multiple overdraft fees from just a single negative balance event. Take a scenario where someone, let's call her Sarah, buys a $4 coffee and a $10 lunch, only to get hit with $70 in compounding fees before she even realizes her balance dipped. By the way, if this ever happens to you, always call your bank immediately and negotiate. Many banks will actually waive that first fee if you just ask. But over time, if it goes unchecked, this compounding debt makes it nearly impossible for consumers to get their account back into the positive. Ultimately, that leads to account charge-offs and involuntary bank closures. It literally prices people out of the banking system. Let's move to Section 4, our step-by-step opt-out guide. Let's get into the actual digital protocols. We'll start with JP Morgan Chase. Chase calls their standard overdraft service debit card coverage. To deactivate everyday debit card overdrafts and block those totally unexpected fees, you'll first open the Chase mobile app or log into chase.com. You're going to navigate to your profile and settings, then click into account settings, and look for the option labeled debit card coverage. When you find it, you literally just transition that setting to no, that's it. By setting it to no, any transaction that would overdraw your account is simply declined right there at the point of sale and absolutely no fee is charged. Next up is Bank of America. Let's see how this builds on the idea of taking digital control. Bank of America handles things slightly differently through a program they call Balance Connect. To stop coverage here, log into the mobile banking app, select your primary checking account, and scroll down to the section titled Account Management. Once you're there, tap on Balance Connect. Inside this interface, you have the power to simply toggle the service off entirely, or you can edit it to manage your linked backup accounts. Finally, let's walk through the exact process for U.S. Bank. In U.S. Bank's digital portal, you'll log into your online banking, select your specific checking account, and navigate to the Account tab. From there, look for the section titled Manage Overdraft Coverage. You'll click Change Coverage, and then make sure to select the box that says, No, I don't want ATM and debit card overdraft coverage. Now, there is one very important detail to note here. U.S. Bank explicitly states that this deactivation is not immediate. It actually takes 1 to 3 business days for this update to fully take effect in their system. So you're going to need to monitor your balance carefully for a few days after making that change. Shifting gears to Section 5, Better Alternatives and Strategies. Let's look at fee-free accounts. Now, what's really interesting about this is that rather than just playing defense with your settings, you can totally play offense by choosing the right product from the get-go. We are seeing a massive rise in specialized, natively fee-free checking accounts. Chase has secure banking, Bank of America offers Advantage Safe Balance, Capital One has 360 checking, Wells Fargo provides clear access, and Citi has access checking. These are all designed with a checklist structure, and they use real-time available balance verification. This means that if you try to make a purchase and you don't actually have the funds, the bank simply declines the transaction request right then and there. It makes an overdraft functionally impossible, completely eliminating the risk of fees. And that brings us to our final part, Section 6, taking financial control and busting a few common myths. Okay, so this is the burning question. It's literally the biggest misconception out there, and people are terrified of this scenario. They think, if I follow your advice and turn off overdraft coverage, and then I'm standing at the grocery store and my card gets declined, is the bank going to charge me a fee just for the card being declined? The answer is a definitive, absolute no. If you have turned off your everyday debit and ATM overdraft coverage, and a point-of-sale transaction is declined simply because you don't have enough funds, there is no fee. Yes, having your card declined at the register might be a brief moment of embarrassment, for sure, but a moment of embarrassment is entirely free. It is infinitely better than having the transaction go through, only to wake up the next morning to find your account drained by a compounding cascade of $35 bank penalties. Now, as always, I do need to remind you that this information is for educational purposes only. Banking products change, and you should always consult directly with your financial institution or a licensed financial advisor for personalized advice regarding your specific situation. But I want to leave you with this provocative thought. In an era where a few quick taps on a smartphone can completely shield your hard-earned wealth from predatory bank fees, can you afford not to take 5 minutes today to check your settings? You have the tools, you have the knowledge, now it's time to take control. If you found this explainer valuable, please hit that like button, share this with friends and family who could absolutely benefit, and subscribe for more deep dives into taking charge of your personal finances. Thanks so much for learning with me today.